Hi there, everyone. So my name's Narinder, as you can see on the screen. I am the Senior PRINCE2 Product Architect here at PeopleCert. And basically, I look after all of the products, future-proof them with a team of people here at PeopleCert, making sure that they're fit for purpose for the project program portfolio, project office, portfolio office, people of the future. So I've been asked to come and talk to you about Agile, a topic that's very close to my heart. One of the reasons being is we've just recently launched our new version 2 PRINCE2 Agile book. So this is a hot topic for us because we know that a lot of industry people talk about Agile, but what do they know about it? So I thought we'd go straight into our first poll. And Sajjan's going to share the poll with you guys. And the question is, very simply, what is Agile? And you've got some options there. So I'll let you pick. Interesting. Okay. Oh, there's a bit of an even spread across some of these. I like it. So I'll wait until it's confirmed that the poll has ended. Wonderful. Okay. So let's just have a look at this. We had the options of setting strict limitations for time and cost. We also had providing flexibility, embracing change, and allowing for trial and error. Actually, all four of those answers are correct. There wasn't one right answer there. They were all correct answers. So it was nice to see that we had an even split. And I'm guessing a lot of you were struggling out, well, I want to go for this and I want to go for this as well. Well, it doesn't matter, because if you wanted to go for all four, you would be absolutely right to pick them. So when we talk about Agile in the broader context, it is very much about thinking in a different way. I've worked in industry for well over 20 years now, and at least 10, maybe longer, of those years, I've heard this buzzword Agile. I remember when it first came out, and I was very intrigued by it. What does it mean? Because when we talk about agility, to me, it reads flexibility. You know, if you do yoga, it's about becoming agile. You want to be flexible. But it is much more than that. It is a mindset, and the mindset is very much about focusing on being adaptable, being able to collaborate with more than yourself. So it's not about me, myself, and I. It's about working with teams of people. And it's used a lot to help find ways of improving, doing things better. When we also talk about Agile, we talk about valuing flexibility, allowing our teams to adjust rather than follow strict plans. And that's really important. If I'm working with a team of people, what I don't want to do is make it so rigid, the environment within which they work, that they're not able to adapt and try things out. We want to create an environment of trust and psychological safety. So I have to have the right mindset to do that, so that the team can try things out. I don't want them to just be following a plan. I want them to try things out that might actually be a better way of doing things or a better way of producing something. It's about working iteratively. So doing things in small segments with small improvements so that we can get the feedback. The sooner I can show you something and you can test it out, the sooner you can tell me what you think of it. And the sooner I know what you think of it, the sooner I can make the changes that are necessary. And this leads me on to a customer-first approach. In Agile, when you work in an Agile environment, whether you're using it within your project environments or whether you're using it within your operational environment, the most important part of this is bringing the customer on the journey with you. Without getting feedback from the people that are going to make use of this thing, we cannot be sure that we're going to give them something that's fit for purpose. So the sooner I can give them something, the sooner we can look at the value that they're gaining from it, and we can continuously evolve that and improve that. The other thing that we talk about in the world of Agile is that we need to allow our teams to self-organise. In order to do that, we need to promote autonomy and empower the teams to make decisions and try things out. Now, that sounds really good and well, but if you come from an environment where it's very command and control, that can be quite tricky to do. And I was guilty of this many years ago, where I am a bit of a control freak. In fact, I'm very much a control freak. And I often found myself saying, don't worry, I'll just do it. Because I didn't have that trust in my team. And that's not their fault, that's down to me. I needed to change my mindset. I needed to allow the team to use the skills that they have. They're there for a reason. I needed to let go of things and let them do it. So we've got to create this environment where we protect the teams from outside noise and allow them to do what they need to do, empower them to do that, and give them that autonomy. Within that, we also talk about continuous learning. And that can only happen if we're taking time out to look at what did we just do. If we're continually doing all of the time and we're not taking time out along that journey, it's impossible for anyone to take a minute and think about, well, what could we have done differently? So we talk about retrospectives. Retrospectives are an opportunity to look back at. In retrospect, how did that go? Gather the feedback. And again, you're only going to get the right feedback if you've created this environment of trust and psychological safety. So the team can feedback, well, we didn't think this worked really well for this reason. Okay, so how are we going to fix that in the next iteration? So when you hear the term Agile, think of it as a term that is used to describe all of these things in red. And it will thrive, it will really flourish if you are creating an environment that allows for experimentation, for people to be able to adapt and to innovate. So let's build on that. How do we embrace adaptability and agility? We need to be very clear about what we're focusing on here. When I work on projects and I talk to people about my past, it was very much a hierarchical organisation, and it was very much about this is the thing that we're going to deliver, and that's it. Once that decision's taken, that is what we're delivering, and we're not changing it because that's what's been agreed as part of our business case. Since Agile's come along, it's got me to ask questions very differently. You're telling me you want this thing, but now I need to understand what is it you need to be able to do with it. What are you looking to gain from this? So it's about understanding not just your outputs, but what outcome is the end user looking to gain and what benefits is it going to give them? And that will lead you to value. What is it they value the most? Your organization might be saying, save money. As an end user, I don't care about that. I want something that's just going to save me some time in the day, maybe 5 minutes, take 5 minutes off my day, which allows me to catch up with other things. So what do I value more than others? It's also about dividing your work into smaller segments or stages. So break the work down and iterate. Don't try and do all of it in one go. Now, in order to do that, you've got to build in the opportunity to design something, build something, test it, get that feedback loop going so that we can then make it better. And we call that iterative and incremental. Use tolerances for empowerment. So as I said, if you're one of those people like I used to be, where you're like, no, this is a very rigid environment, I need to know about everything, you're never going to get anything done. People are just going to keep harassing you. And I know when I've delivered training in the past, I often ask the question, how many of you have asked someone to do something and then when you got it back, it wasn't what you were expecting? And 9 out of 10 times, everybody puts their hand up. But then I flip the question and I say, well, how many of you have been asked to do something? And as you've walked away, you're kind of asking yourself the question, did I really understand what I've just been asked to do here? But the environment wasn't a safe environment to question. So you've gone away, you think you've understood what's been asked to be done, you do it, and then you hand it back only to find out that wasn't what was expected. So we really need to create clearer tolerances, clearer boundaries, and communication is really, really important in that. People need to understand when they are allowed to digress and try something out, versus when something really does need to be signed off because it's too big a change. And that comes through empowerment. Now, when we talk about Agile, we talk about fixing time and fixing costs. This is one of the reasons why industry loves it, because they deliver on time and to budget. But the only way they're able to do that is because we make the scope flexible. Now, often people say to me, Naz, and by the way, you can call me Naz. Naz, if I make scope flexible, am I not compromising on quality? And the answer is no, absolutely not. And I'm going to give you an example of this. So if I said to you that the project is about delivering a refurbished office, and it's got to have a space for 50 people to sit down and work at a desk. I've set a boundary around that. So now I then might say, if I can fit in an extra 10, great. So I'd like it for 60, but no less than 50. What I've done there is given you a scope tolerance. Now, whether I give you 50 or whether I give you 60, the quality of what I deliver is not to be compromised. So I would set the quality criteria, the specification, for the tables, for the chairs, for the PCs, and that has to be met, whether it's 50 of them or 60 of them. So scope is not linked to quality in that way. Do not feel that if I give you less of something, that I've given you less of the quality. The quality should still be brilliant of what I do give you. Building on that, we also talk about facilitating learning from experience. So one of the beautiful things about Agile is that it's really important that we build in opportunities to learn. And we can only do that when we talk to people, we give them the opportunity to try something, so that we then listen to what their feedback is. And I'm sure that all of you have experienced this. If somebody comes to you with a picture of something, you're able to have a conversation about that picture and you can give your feedback. And the example I often use is, if any of you that have ever been out to buy a new kitchen or get your bedroom furniture fitted, you go to the likes of any specialist company that sells those products, they normally create you a 3D image. What they're doing is showing you an early replica of what you can expect to see. The reason they're doing that is so that you can feedback and you can say, well, I don't like that there. Can we move that from here to there? Well, what we're doing is we're building in that communication element, and we're allowing people to give their feedback early, so that when I do finally deliver it, I give them something fit for purpose. And that leads to learn from experience, because at each opportunity, we should be looking at, could we have done things any differently? What have we learned from that? Is there a better way of doing this? And then we talk about providing guidance for tailoring. So any of you that are familiar with the suite of PRINCE2 products that are out there, we've got project management, program management, portfolio management, and so many others. We always talk about tailoring, and often people say to me, Naz, when you say tailor, does that mean I don't have to do this? And I'm like, no. That isn't what it means. It means that you do more or less of something based on the environment that you're in. So if I buy exactly the same dress, I don't know, dress or trousers from a store, the tailoring aspect is the size that I pick up. The product is exactly the same. It looks the same. It's the size of it that's going to be different for me to somebody else. That's tailoring. And this is why we say use a method that is going to allow for all of the above in order for you to really feel confident that you're applying agility properly. So let's build on that. Let's talk about some of the challenges that you're often going to face. So I have another poll here for you, and the poll is, what is the biggest challenge that you face? So let's see what you come back with. Interesting. Okay, so we have a clear winner of lack of mindset at this stage. Oh, now we've got it on par with reluctant to adopt Agile. These are all common challenges, by the way, that I've actually seen in industry, hence why I picked them. Okay, so lack of agile mindset. We're actually going to look at all 4 of these within my slide set because all of them have some weighting to them. So rapid change in the environment, new technologies and trends, reluctant to adopt agile, and lack of agile mindset. These are all areas that we focus on. And I'm going to start off with some of the sort of common ones that you'll hear. So from a business perspective, constant and rapid change in the environment. We as organisations are having to more and more keep up to date with what's going on outside because technology has moved on so much that there is so much change happening out there. We have to keep trying to stay ahead of the curve. And sometimes just being at the curve is the most that we can do. We can't even get ahead of it. And that leads into global competition as well. You know, we have a lot of competitors out there, whether we like it or not. There's a lot of people in the same space that we might be in. And what we don't want to do is get left behind. We have to tackle that competition by looking at, well, what is it they're doing that we should also be doing, and vice versa. Disruption caused by new market entrants, economic downturns. We know that, you know, we can take COVID as an example now that it's done and dusted, but it's taught us a lot. It's taught us that we can deal with uncertain environments and things that are happening. And whether it's going to have a long-term effect on the economy, we've learned to adapt to that. And we know that when government changes, things change in the world, there's a war somewhere, we're all impacted by it. And we have to adapt to that. And then, of course, you've got your emerging technologies and trends. Let's take AI as a classic example here. You know, AI is here and it's saying, I'm here to stay, now deal with me. And I don't know of any organisation that is burying their head in the sand saying, oh, it's not going to affect us, because they realise it is. It's here, people are using it, and we need to get on board and figure out how we're going to bring that into our organisations. And this is where Agile can really help address some of these challenges, because it allows you to incorporate that flexibility, try things out, creating that safe environment, doing the experiments, allowing people to try something new, building in the opportunity for feedback, you know, finding out what people think of something before I invest all of my time and money in giving them this new technology. But that can in itself be a challenge, where projects want to do that, but find it hard to do that. And of course, you've then got those skeptical users, people that hear the term and sort of go, no, not for me. I'm all about, you know, structure, control and governance, and Agile just sounds very not any of those things. So I wanted to address these with you. So constant and rapid change in the environment. So some of the challenges that you'll often hear people talk about is reactive planning. Yeah, we're not being proactive, we're reacting to situations. There's a lot of frequent rework that has to take place. So we end up going back around and replanning things and doing more work. We often see people talk about difficulty aligning their project outcomes with how the business is now shifting its priorities. And that can be a real challenge when you're dealing with constant change on the outside. And then you've got stress levels increase due to the constant need for adaptability and quick decision making. How do we address this using Agile? The way to address the challenges with Agile is by getting your professionals to be skilled enough to deal with unpredictable situations. And one of the ways to do that is by allowing them to understand how Agile actually works. Agile ways of working is what I'm going to call it, because there's so many different ways of being Agile. So having a toolbox that allows them to pick, this is an Agile way of working that I really think would help with this situation. Helping them to adapt to that environment, and then they help the teams adapt, bringing people together to allow them to collaborate well and to maintain governance and control whilst they do it. And this is a real big misconception in the marketplace, where people think that you can't use, for example, PRINCE2 project management because it's about governance and control, or you can't use Agile in that because Agile is about flexibility. Well, yes, you can, because nowhere does it say in Agile that you shouldn't have governance and control. What it says is you need to empower your teams, but set clear boundaries. We often then talk about global competition. So a lot of organisations in today's world do work on a global basis. So they've got increased pressure to deliver their projects on time, also within budget, but then also with a higher level of quality. It's like that. Everybody wants not gold plated, they want the real gold bar. And that's tricky to manage. And often we're having to do this while managing our cross-functional and sometimes even cross-cultural teams and stakeholders. You know, my background working for DHL, I worked with many people around the world in different parts of DHL, and it is different. Culturally, there's different ways of doing things, and that could be quite tricky. So you're not only having to manage these relationships with people across the world, but you're also trying to keep up with the demands of the organisation. And that could be quite a challenge. Another challenge is limited resource. You know, we don't have enough of the resource that's necessary. We're having to squeeze every last bit out within those tighter margins. And that's becoming the normal way of doing things, which, again, from a staff perspective, from a people perspective, is very stressful. So, again, how does Agile really address these challenges? Well, professionals need a global mindset. We cannot afford to just work in a mindset of, well, this is how we do it in the UK and that's it. It's our way or no way. We need to be culturally aware, and we need to have the ability to create competitive advantage. You know, it is good for an organisation to be able to show that they have that global understanding. If you're not aware of how things are done in other parts of the world, but yet you want to enter that market, it's not going to happen for you, because you're not knowledgeable. You haven't taken the time to get to know that market and what their cultural norms are. Agile helps teams to agree on goals and stay flexible at all of those levels. And that includes from the people at the top, the leaders, all the way down to the people on the ground that are doing the delivery work. So we need to make sure that we build in opportunities for people at the top, all the way down to the bottom, to have the same understanding and to apply agile ways of working so that we can pivot. So again, try something out, ask the right questions, do a pilot project. You know, we've never worked in this industry sector before with this particular country before. Let's try it out, but do it in an agile way so that you can learn quickly. What you don't want to do is invest lots of time and money in an initiative that at the end doesn't give you the benefits or the value that you were hoping for. So take an agile approach to it, break it down into smaller pieces, try little things out, especially to learn. That is the beauty of working in an agile way. The sooner I deliver something of value, whether it's a picture, as I said earlier, or a physical product, the sooner I can learn. Then we've got disruption. So this is sudden shifts that are caused by new market entrants, economic downturns, or innovative business models that force professionals to quickly pivot strategies and recalibrate their project objectives. This often leads to reactive rather than proactive management. And this is tricky. We live in a world that is constantly changing. There's things happening in the environment, in the economy that are constantly requiring us to rethink things. And what happens is you're at the project level, so you're absorbed within the project. Your organisation is therefore trying to firefight what's going on around them. And sometimes there's this misalignment because they've changed direction, but we didn't know about it because it didn't filter down to us. So how do we address those challenges? It's about being able to anticipate. You have to be forward thinking. And then being able to adapt to that disruption, which is going to be vital for your long-term success as an organisation. And I often hear people say, well, surely that's senior management's job. I disagree. And the reason I disagree is often it's the people on the ground that are doing this stuff day to day actually have their ear to the ground and know about all of these new things that are happening out there or what's going on around the world. So it is important that we listen to the people on the ground as well as the people at the top. You're going to have two different approaches here, two different sets of information. We need to look at both. So Agile helps teams handle change by working iteratively. So Agile is about introducing change in a controlled way. So we do that by working iteratively, by reviewing our progress And some of you may have heard of Lean Startup. The whole point of Lean Startup, it's an agile way of working by Eric Ries, was to stop people investing all of their money into an initiative that would end up taking all of their savings, and it wouldn't fly, it wouldn't work. Well, the idea is that we try something out. He's the one that gave us the concept of a minimum viable product. And that MVP was a way of testing the market, trying something out, getting some feedback on it, and then using that as a way of saying, yeah, we're on the right track, or no, we need to pivot. We need to try something completely different. We've then got emergent technologies and trends. So again, we live in a world that is fast-paced, very much changing. People are so smart. I remember my mum used to say, these days kids are born like computers. They're just so intelligent. And I totally agree with that. I met with a whole load of university students only the other day, and I was blown away by just how smart these young adults were. I don't remember being quite that tuned up at the same age as them, but maybe that's just a generational thing, and I am old anyway. But keeping up with new tools, new technologies, I do think we live in a world where this is more relevant, and it has been for the last, 20 years now, possibly a bit longer, where technology changes very, very rapidly. Somebody comes up with an idea and there's something new, bang, there's something new on the market. And we also talk about methodologies that are in constant challenge. We have to keep up with what's going on out there. So professionals need to learn and implement these advancements, such as knowing about AI, knowing about Agile, knowing about advanced analytics, often whilst they're still doing their day job in the background. And I remember that's how it was for me. I was doing the role of project manager. I was running a very large scale project, and then AI came and hit, and people were like, you need to get up to speed with it. And I was like, well, okay, but it's very new, very different to what I'm used to. And now I've got to carry on doing this and deliver and learn about this. And that can be quite tricky. And we often see that resistance or slow adoption can really hinder efficiency and team performance. You know, people will shy away from trying something out because it doesn't feel comfortable for them. It maybe feels all too new or too much information or too complicated for them. So they will resist it. So what we need to do is we need to create these strong teams, and we need to give them the skills of working in an agile way. And you can only do that by investing in your people. And that's along with openness to new technology. We need to learn to embrace, try things out. And that can really position people, individuals, professionals as innovators. And we often hear about, I'm thinking of the model now and it skipped my mind, but we talk about the early adopters and the innovators versus the dragging and screaming and kicking right at the end, the bell curve, when it comes to change. Well, we want to be at the front of that. We want people to be able to feel comfortable that this is a good way to go. Let's try it out. Let's see what it's all about. And this is where Agile really supports that kind of environment and that mentality, because it allows you to experiment. It helps your team stay future ready. You know, if they've heard of something, it gives them the opportunity to say, go and find out more about it. Let's try it out. Let's see what it's all about. And it opens up better ways of working. We've also got projects where they're unable to incorporate Agile effectively. I have seen this a lot, okay? Projects where they say they are using Agile in name only, because when I've sat with them and looked at how they're actually doing things, they really are not. They're not very Agile at all. It's a tick box exercise. So some of the things to look out for here is people that are resistant to change. So teams and stakeholders that struggle with this term flexibility and Agile's way of being flexible. They find it uncomfortable. Stakeholder buy-in. So this is where your clients and executives actually prefer fixing the scope and saying, you will deliver X by this date. They fix the scope. And they don't understand that actually that's a bad way of working. Balancing flexibility and structure. So Agile requires you to be adaptable whilst ensuring accountability. And people struggle with that. They don't see how the two can support each other. And then integration with non-Agile teams. We all know that I certainly have experienced this, and I know lots of people that I've met have experienced this, where you go into an organisation and there's certain pockets within the organisation, teams, that are very good at working in agile ways. They've nailed it to a team, and they are comfortable with it. And then you go across to another team and they haven't got a clue. And that can cause some friction. So how do we address that? Teams need to understand what those challenges are up front, and they need to adapt the right mindset to apply agile. And I want to sit on this point for a little while. When we talk about mindset, you'll hear it and you'll see this when I talk to you about the new book, and I hope you'll go and have a look at it, PRINCE2 Agile version 2. We've got a whole piece on here about having the right mindset and the importance of it. And we talk about being agile versus doing agile. And our experience and our research showed us that people doing agile at the delivery level have nailed it. They're very good at it, but one of their biggest bugbears that we often hear people say is, we are very good at being agile. It was just, I wish somebody would tell senior leadership to let us get on with it and allow us to be agile, because they're restricting it. And that's because they're not being agile at that top level. And being agile is about applying the right mindset, creating an environment that allows for agility, thinking in a particular way, in an agile way, to say, I'm going to allow the teams to do things in this way. I'm going to create an environment that is conducive to that so that they can really thrive at doing agility. And that has to be done whilst balancing governance with agility demands. And the only way to do that is to understand that you don't have to compromise one for the other. It's understanding, what do we mean by governance? It's about making decisions at the right point. But until I get to that point of decision making, creating an environment where agility really flourishes. Now, as a senior stakeholder, if I'm not thinking in this way, I might not understand why I'm looking at a prototype. Why haven't you given me something more substantial to look at? I need to understand that the reason I've got a prototype in front of me is because we're going to use that to do some learning now, so I don't carry on wasting your time and money on developing something that's not fit for purpose. I need to have that understanding. So we talk about the agile mindset, the importance of leadership adopting that so that it can filter through and not affect in a negative way the people that are doing agility at that lower level. Next, we'll often have people that are skeptical of structured methods. So the challenge might be that they perceive a loss of flexibility. So if we're talking about using Agile in a PRINCE2 project management environment, they might be like, no chance. Yeah, I don't want that governance and control, or I don't want to work in that chaotic environment that you call Agile. It's about understanding that it doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but that's their perception. Stakeholder conflict. So executives may demand structured reporting, clashing with Agile's way of working, which is very much more informal. We talk about integration issues. So Agile teams might actually struggle to align with structured departments. They're used to working in a particular way, and then they've got to bridge that gap and work with other departments that don't work in that way. And fear of bureaucracy. So added structure may be seen as slowing things down for them, especially at that delivery level. And having just gone through this project with the team within PeopleCert and the over 1,300 stakeholders that we worked with, contributors, one of the things that came up time and time again, people very much agreed that there is this need for bridging the gap between the people on the ground that are doing delivery. They need to be supported and feel supported by the people that are doing the leadership. And it's the leadership element that we really wanted to tackle and make sure that they understand the importance of creating that environment. So to address the challenges with Agile, professionals need to balance PRINCE2 governance, so PRINCE2 project management governance, with agility at all levels, whilst using clear reporting and flexible scope. So we want to have clear reporting, but we don't want it to be that I need you to put tools down and now create me a report. So I need that information to make a decision, but how else can I get it? If the team's got a team board and they're updating it as part of their daily stand-ups on a day-to-day basis, I need to get into the mindset of, rather than me ask them to send me the info, I need to get out of my ivory tower and I need to go and pull the info. It's there for me. So why am I asking for it to be reported to me when I can easily go and pull the information? Setting clear boundaries will help your team stay empowered and adaptable. There's nothing worse than a team member not knowing, when do I need to escalate something and when do I not? For example, many years ago, when I worked on a particular project, I remember my boss saying to me, "Why are you asking me so many questions?" And I said, "Well, because I don't know whether I've got the decision-making power or not." And well, yeah, you have. Great. Okay, now we've had that conversation, I'll crack on with it. Then I had the same boss come to me and say, "Why wasn't I notified of this?" I said, "I thought you said that I had the decision-making power and I can crack on with it. And now you're telling me, why weren't you notified?" Like, we need to create some clear boundaries here. I need to understand, when do I need to come to you and when do I not? And that's where tolerance and manage by exception is so, so important. So let's talk about our third poll. Third poll, the question I'm asking you is, what would you gain by using a structured method? This is about you personally. Do you think it's going to provide you with control and governance? Do you think you would personally it would provide you with a consistent approach? Would it facilitate your knowledge sharing and reuse of assets, or would it allow for trial and error? What do you think you'd gain? Interesting. Okay, this is looking good. I'll give it another 30 seconds. Okay. Now you'll notice I said structured method, okay? Because whenever we talk about methodologies, be it project management, program management, or ways of working, agile, they're in a structured environment. We have to have structure and control. Governance and control is important. And I think, I can't say it enough to people. If it was your money, it was your company, you would want that structure and control. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to sleep at night? So we cannot do away with that. What we need to do is create the environment where we still have that, but people can thrive. So based on these results, the most popular answer was providing a consistent approach. And I'm glad that you guys have picked that. That's important. A second favourite was provides control and governance. We then had facilitate sharing of knowledge and reuse. And then last we had allows for trial and error. Interesting results. Okay. There was no right or wrong here, by the way. It's just an insight for me. So let's talk about, based on what you've said here, let's talk about what some of the trends in the market are. Now, there was a study done a little while back where we pulled the information together to look at, what is it that the industry is telling us? So we know that the global working environment is very much impacted by all of these things on the left-hand side. And you'll notice agile methods in project management was one of the key factors. But the findings found that 97% of organizations still believe project program portfolio management is critical to business performance and organizational success. And what that is telling me, my interpretation of that is 97% of organizations are saying we need structure and control. We need clear processes. We need guidance. We want to be consistent in the way that we deliver things. And the only reason they want to do that is if they're seeing positive results. In terms of project management, it is in high demand. You'll notice that by the year 2030, there's going to be a need for 2.3 million new project management employees. So this could be not just as a project manager, but within that field, needed by that time. That's a lot of people, okay? 50% of professionals are going to be project managers, but do not actually have a qualification. They fell into it. Do you know that's how my career started? I fell into project management, and then I was made to do the PRINCE2 project management qualification back in 1997, 98 sometime. 32% of the budget is lost when a project fails to reach its goal. That's scary. Okay, that's a lot of money to lose because we failed to reach our goal. Now, I want you to think about Agile now. Could Agile have helped us? And I reckon it could have done. If we used Agile ways of working, we could have experimented, tried things out, got feedback, and realised we're not going in the right direction and pivoted. And then the last one there, 39% of projects fail due to change in an organisation's priorities. And this tells me they're not adaptable. They are changing their priorities, which they need to. Organisations need to change priorities based on what's going on around them, but the way we do things internally isn't allowing us to adapt quickly enough to meet those new priorities. And again, if you adopt Agile ways of working, it's going to help you be able to do that. It makes you more future ready, more ready for the unpredictable, allows you to pivot when necessary. So that was all about Agile and the challenges and how you can overcome them. I now wanted to talk to you very briefly about us at PeopleCert and what we do and what we're coming out with now. So this is our new proposed qualification scheme. So those of you that are familiar with PRINCE2, you'll know that it used to be PRINCE2 and people thought of project management immediately. It's now more of a banner across the top. It's our branding. And everything has the prefix of PRINCE2, and underneath it we then have Agile, we have project management, we have program management, portfolio management, risk manager, and PMO manager. This is where we're going. This is the future that we see. And the reason we're doing that is we want to be very clear about our offerings, and I'm going to talk to you about the Agile element under this offering. So PRINCE2 Agile, this is what the book looks like. It's now the new version 2, and the new version 2 came out in May. I had the absolute pleasure of being involved as a co-author, along with a multitude of people. So the lead author is Ruth Roberts, and then Ruth Lopez even, I should get the name right. And I was supported by my colleague Simon, here at PeopleCert, between the three of us, and then we had a whole host of co-authors and contributors. There was over 1,300 contributors, just to be clear. So this was an Agile project in itself, the production of this book and all of the material that goes with it. And I thought I'd share with you some of the feedback that we received on our journey on this project that used Agile ways of working whilst using PRINCE2 project management as its overall structure. So it looks quite small, but these slides are going to be made available to you, I believe, afterwards. But these are just some of the things that people had to say that got the opportunity to be part of what we class as our beta testing and part of the journey with us. Now, the other thing I'll say here is that when we were producing this product, and I'm going to call it a product, it's a physical thing, we consciously wanted to trial out our own method. We wanted to practice what we preach, essentially. And one of the things that came away from this is that very early on when we did our alpha sessions, we tested our thinking. What we had as a vision, we tested it on a small group of people and we got their feedback. And that was Agile in its essence, starting off. We used that feedback to then iterate. And if I had my colleague Simon here, he'd tell you the number of iterations we went through was incredible. We had over 16,000 lines of line item detail feedback along the way that we went through every single item. Every piece of feedback was crucial to us. And I wanted to share that with you because we are talking about Agile. And in order for your project to deliver something that's fit for purpose, that meets the value of the end users, because that's who it's for, they have to come on the journey with you. And that's exactly what we did here. We brought them on the journey with us. And this is just some of the quotes from some of the people that had the option to be with us. And we're very grateful to them because without them, we wouldn't have this product. Lastly, from me, before I hand back to Svejan, we've got what's next. So visit our website So it's peoplecert.org, and when you get this in PDF form, you should be able to click on the link, and it is on the next slide as well. But also on the website, you're going to find that we have a section called PeopleCert Membership Plus. The membership area is a really great area. If you haven't joined it, I recommend it. It's where you can keep your CPD points up to date. So those of you that have done a qualification but don't want to resit the exam in the future, this is another way around that you join the membership platform. And then you get access to blogs and templates. And I say templates, actual templates that you can use. There's lots of articles on there. We're forever publishing articles from experts, tackling, issues that we know are relevant in the current world. It's got a wealth of information, so definitely worth having a look. Hopefully that's been of use to you. And at this point, I'm going to hand back to Sveja, and she's going to talk to you about the next couple of slides. Let me know when you want me to change a slide for you.
Yeah, thank you, Narinder. That was very insightful indeed. I hope everyone actually learned something. Just very quickly, if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the chat. This is a reminder that the webinar is recorded and you will receive the link next week alongside the slides. So these are our contact information for Knowledge Train, Agile KLC and PeopleCert. You can contact us about PRINCE2 Agile or PRINCE2 or Agile courses. Narinder, can you go on to the next slide, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then these are Knowledge Train and Agile KLC's courses. So feel free to have a browse. You can contact me as well. I'm just going to quickly pop my email. If you have any questions, please email me. And then just before we head over to the Q&A, I'm just going to quickly pop a feedback form. I do appreciate your feedback, positive or negative. It's always useful. It just gives an idea of what you guys want in the future as well. So if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Just give a few minutes for everyone. Certainly seems like the feedback is positive. We do have a comment from Andrew. Look at options away from PMI.
Yeah, very valid point. We can definitely take that away. Andrew, if you want to give me a bit more around that, clarity around that question, I can definitely try and answer it. But if you're making a general statement, yeah. And yeah, please do feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Just use that chat facility and I'll try and endeavour to get through as many as possible because we still have 10 minutes. So I'd be happy to.
So we have a question. So how can we gain a support leadership, buy-in and support for scaling Agile and introducing structured Agile approach across the whole organisation?
So thank you, Simon, for asking that question. There is a whole section in the book around this, but you know that already. around gaining support. So we talk about scaling agile within the book and the importance of leadership understanding that. So this could be through a change program of some kind. It could be through transformational change. There's many different ways of trying to understand this. And I think what I normally say to an organization is, first of all, try and understand what you're trying to achieve here. Maybe you need to try a pilot project out where you say, I want to introduce agility and I want to do it everywhere. Well, don't try and do it everywhere all in one go, because that's not going to work. Maybe test it out in a small area first before you roll out across the rest of the organization, because that gives you an opportunity to look at what we've gained from that, where the changes need to happen, what we need to improve. So trying it out on a small group of people. So remember that when we're talking about scaling, we're talking about moving from one team to multiple teams, and that can be quite tricky. So we say try it out first on a small set, then use the learnings from that and take it forward.
Thank you, Narinder. Hope that answers your question. Does anyone have any more questions?
Seems like everybody's quiet today. It's not even Friday. Oh, I can see there's a question being typed. Absolutely, Carmen. Little steps according to the maturity of your organisation. Couldn't agree more. Organisational change management is a thing, right? We need to be very mindful of how we introduce change and what we're trying to achieve from it. So that's part of your transformational change plan. You know, think about how you're going to do it. Plan it. Don't just go into it. And yes, start off small and grow steady is one of the favourite terms that I like to use quite often. So, Pappy, you asked how to select the agile approach. This is a great question, and it's a very tricky one because certain industry sectors and certain organizations do have a preferred way of working. So when we talk about agile from my sort of background and from within the PeopleSet, we talk about it on a more generic level. We say that, look, there's many different ways of working agile. Some people like Scrum, some people like Lean, some people like Kanban. There's no right or wrong, okay? The idea here is to try and do things in a more agile way and look at what is going to work for your type of environment. Hence why it needs to be planned. You can't just jump into it. You need to think about what your end goal is. How are you going to implement this? How many teams are going to be impacted? And then sort of plan that and then give it a go. So all of this is given to you as guidance within the PRINCE2 Agile book. So definitely try and get your hands on that. Carmen, you've asked a question, will there be a webinar with insights of the new PRINCE2 Agile? That was me kind of giving you some insights. I don't know of any future webinars that will be focusing on that, but I know that within Knowledge Train they have attended all of the briefings. They know very much everything there is to know. They've been on the beta testing journey with us, so they'll be able to definitely provide you with any answers that you need. So please do reach out to them, and if you've got questions, and they'll be able to answer them for you.
Yeah, definitely. If there is anything specific that you are looking for, you can always email me or let me know in the chat, and I can always email back. Or if you obviously want general information on the new PRINCE2 Agile, that's perfectly fine as well.
Any other questions?
few people are typing. That's no difference of formulation. Okay, that's absolutely fine. I will email you with the details. No problem. We have everyone 1 more minute if anyone does have any questions.
So I'm going to very quickly say something about the former version and the current version, just to give you a sort of insight. And then I won't say any more. Very, very quickly. The previous version, version 1, was very much only for projects. So using Agile in a project environment. The biggest difference with version 2, not only has everything been updated, it's a complete rewrite, but it's no longer for just project management either. It is Agile in its entirety, so you can use it within projects as well as beyond projects. And it does have a section on AI in there as well. A pleasure, Ingrid.
It doesn't seem like there's any more questions. Oh, just one person typing. Thank you, Fiona.
I'd like to say thank you to all the people that attended. Thank you for taking the time to come and listen to me. Hopefully it was informative.
Thank you, everyone. I think it's safe to say that we can end the webinar. Thank you, everyone who participated. Thank you so much, Narinder.
Pleasure.
It was useful and insightful, especially your examples. So I appreciate your time and everyone else's time. So thank you, everyone, and hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.